Hello, I'm David Hughes. Welcome to Your Perfect Body, the podcast of the Esoteric Teaching community. Today's selection is from the Esoteric Teaching Introductory Seminar entitled Spiritual Disinformation. Any study of how Vedic wisdom is transmitted in the modern world is incomplete without an analysis of the effect of government policy on the Vedic teachings. The esoteric teaching is the absolute truth. However, as anyone who has studied political science well or has a realistic view of history knows, governments lie. They lie to each other, they lie to their citizens, and they lie to themselves. Knowledge is power, and secrets are more powerful than public knowledge because your enemies don't know them, you hope. My Shaolin martial arts teacher always taught his students never to boast or display their martial prowess unless absolutely necessary. He was fond of saying, "A hidden sword is twice as sharp." Ah, so. Most people today understand that governments keep secrets and lie, but few people realize how deeply they keep their secrets or how pervasively and consistently they lie. For example, most people can understand that our government might lie to keep a new weapons system secret, but it is more difficult to understand why our government might lie to keep the existence of Vedic culture or the original and complete knowledge of yoga a secret, or that they might allocate significant resources and manipulate or even harm their own citizens if they thought it necessary to accomplish this objective. But what if these two seemingly unrelated matters actually have something in common? Without getting too deeply entangled in speculative paranoid conspiracy theories, consider this. It is common knowledge today that the government has a long-standing policy of denial of its knowledge of UFOs and extraterrestrial beings. Reports of UFO sightings by qualified military observers are hushed up, and any credible civilian reports are ridiculed and debunked by an extremely broad and effective campaign of disinformation and media manipulation. What most people don't know is that the same Vedic literatures that describe the spiritual practices of yoga and tantra also describe space travel, life and civilizations on other planets and in other planetary systems, smart weapons, intelligent biocomputers, and other advanced technology. As we have already discussed, Vedic culture also has advanced knowledge of technology for data integrity, encryption, and messaging protocols equal to or better than modern information science. In fact, Vedic culture has used these techniques to transmit the transcendental message of the esoteric teaching from generation to generation for thousands of years without any change. And governments like to manipulate information to suit their agenda. So is it clear now why a government might not want its citizens, might not want us to know about this? Every Western government since ancient Rome has portrayed itself to its people as the most advanced, the most powerful, and the originator of every great idea. The founders of every revolutionary government rewrite history to suit their socio-political views and agenda. This is a normal part of the culture of political power. Can you name a modern government that did not take power by violent revolution? The Western government disinformation campaign against the Vedic civilization and its spiritual wisdom has been going on for a very long time. The Roman government burned tens of thousands of Greek manuscripts. We know of their existence only because they are mentioned in surviving Greek works and their destruction was proudly recorded in Roman historical records. The Romans also burned the Library of Alexandria, the greatest repository of ancient wisdom in the ancient Western world, and killed all the scholars and monks who knew its arcane secrets. Why? To cover up the fact that the Greeks knew certain important concepts and ideas long before the Romans got around to discovering them, and that the Greeks in turn had borrowed many of these ideas from the far more ancient Vedic civilization. The Romans wanted to take the credit, so they simply erased any part of history they didn't like. And that was just the beginning. Later, Emperor Constantine declared Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire. He convened the Council of Nicaea in 312 AD to consolidate and standardize the faith. He also sent Roman legions to destroy the Library of Alexandria a second time. His objective in standardizing Christianity was not to teach the absolute truth, but to unify his fragmented, disintegrating empire. Therefore, he determined which books and teachings would be included in the Catholic Bible, solely on the basis of their political usefulness, and that they should be comprehensible and acceptable to any Roman citizen, most of whom were ignorant, unintelligent, and materialistic. The result was that the details of Jesus' esoteric teachings on reincarnation, vegetarianism, and meditation are totally absent from the Bible. Christian fundamentalists argue that the Bible is the literal Word of God. But we have no original manuscript of any of the books of the New Testament earlier than the Council of Nicaea. The earliest manuscripts we do have are fragmentary, and they all disagree. We know nothing of Jesus' life from his bar mitzvah at age 12 until his initiation by John the Baptist and beginning of his preaching mission at 30. Fortunately, historical records of Jesus' journey to India were preserved in a Buddhist monastery in Kashmir, but these are not accepted by the Christian establishment, not even by the Protestants who claim to reform the corrupt Roman Church. And the monastery itself was destroyed during the recent ethnic violence in Kashmir. How convenient. I'm going to skip over the genocidal atrocities of the several Muslim invasions and occupations of India, since these were obvious attempts to destroy Vedic culture that did not make much use of disinformation. But let's focus on the British government policy in India. During their 150 years of colonial rule in India, the British set up a brutal program of feudal economic exploitation, the British East India Company, including a sophisticated disinformation campaign against the Vedic culture. The British borrowed a pejorative racist term, Hindu, from the Muslims who had invaded and oppressed India, and attempted to destroy Vedic culture in medieval times. Around this bastard term, they synthesized a counterfeit polytheistic religion, Hinduism, despite the fact that in all the tens of thousands of Vedic works, the Persian word Hindu is never mentioned even once. They forced the acceptance of Hinduism on the Indian people by establishing a state-run vocational education system to prepare Indians for civil service in the British colonial government. The British schools and colleges required students to accept Hinduism and parrot the party line that the Vedic civilization is mythology as a requirement for graduation and well-paid government jobs. As a result, after more than a century of British occupation, the most highly educated and influential Indians all accept this nonsense Hinduism. If you doubt any of this, Google British created Hinduism. You'll get about 10,000 references. As Hitler once said, a lie repeated often enough becomes truth. The governmental cover-up of Vedic civilization thus goes all the way back to the Roman government of the pre-Christian era, and it continues unabated today. If we look at the approved textbooks for courses on world religion and culture taught by our government-accredited schools and colleges, we find that they all follow the British Party line, promoting the false, concocted Hindu religion, and ignore the actual Vedic culture as if it never existed. The same textbooks give credit for inventing the decimal